Hey, I'm Xannie, creator and host of the BPD Bunch. I am 33 years old and I live in New Mexico, in the USA. Woohoo! I wasn't born here. I was born in California and I moved to Germany when I was 4. I did learn and still speak German, but I moved back to the United States when I was 9, so that kind of stunted my vocabulary a little bit. My childhood was pretty positive. I had 2 parents who love and support me and a brilliant younger brother who is smarter than anyone probably should be. I've always been more emotionally sensitive than the rest of my family, and I think it was middle school when I really started to feel like that difference was a problem. I have ADHD and seasonal affective disorder on top of that, and I think because no one close to me really knew what dealing with all of that was like, there wasn't anyone around to really help me develop effective emotion regulation skills. So by the time I was in high school, I developed an eating disorder as a way to try to regulate my emotions. I went into treatment for it, and when I got out, I ended up in a very dysfunctional on-again, off-again relationship. That relationship really brought out all the worst parts of me. I ended up at a residential treatment facility, and that was where I had my BPD diagnosis confirmed. And it did take me several years after that before I was finally able to accept that diagnosis. BPD at its worst was like being in hell. I was in pain from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, and I would have nightmares all night until the process started over again the next day. I was very low functioning, so I couldn't keep a job or maintain relationships. I could not even pretend that I was okay. I've honestly lost count of the number of times I've tried to end my life. My life is totally different now. I've been working for myself pretty successfully since 2019. I've repaired relationships with many family members and friends. I've even been in a long-term romantic relationship since 2017, which is something that I never thought I would ever be able to achieve. One thing that I'm really proud of being able to do now that I couldn't do before is really think about what I want to say before I say it. I used to lash out at people in a really aggressive way. And it wasn't that I was really trying to hurt people, but I think I had this twisted thought that if I could make people feel the same pain that I did, then they would understand what I was going through and they'd be able to do something to help me. Of course, it doesn't really work like that, and I'm really glad that I've gained the skills to really be able to stop and think about what I say before I say it and focus on how to be really effective in my interactions with other people. In terms of what I do for work, I started sewing when I was 4 years old, and I turned that into my profession in 2019. Sewing and other creative things also encompass most of my hobbies, so I make most of my own clothes. I picked up screen printing about 10 years ago, so I made all of our BPD Bunch t-shirts. Of course, as the creator and host of the BPD Bunch, that's another job that I do. I'm the kind of person that's not really satisfied with doing one thing. I'm always doing more and more and more. I'm also a huge psychology nerd. One of the prerequisites I had for myself before starting the show was finishing my Bachelor of Science in Psychology. I graduated summa cum laude in May of this year, which was really exciting. Long-term life goals. The first thing is I want to grow my family. I want to have kids. Professionally, one of my goals is to reduce the suicide rate of people with BPD by at least 1% during my lifetime. Now, that's not a job title, and I honestly don't know exactly how I'm going to do that yet. So I'm hoping that the BPD Bunch show will give me an opportunity to have great conversations with people and build relationships, and together, hopefully we can come up with a way to accomplish that goal. In terms of tips I would give to people who are still really struggling with BPD symptoms, I have 2 things. First, I would say that it's important to have patience and compassion for yourself. You didn't develop BPD overnight, and it takes time and effort to change some of those patterns. The other thing I would say is that it's really important to be your own advocate. No matter how well-intentioned family, friends, or even mental health professionals might be, none of them are you. They can definitely offer support and expertise, but at the end of the day, you're the one that has to live with the results, right? It's hard to feel like fighting for yourself is worth it. I think it's really important for your own self-respect and your own self-trust to know that you have your own back. There are so many things now that make my life worth living. My passions in the creative arts and of course our beautiful BPD community are a big part of what make my life worth living. But honestly, I think so much of what makes my life worth living is the little stuff. It's the smell of coffee in the morning. It's the feel of my cat's fur when I pet him. It's the sensation of closeness when I sit with my husband on the couch. But it's not just the good stuff. It's smacking my hip on the same table for the 100th time because I just cannot remember that it's there. It's the irritation I feel when I see people whispering because that's my biggest pet peeve. It's the deep agony and grief that I feel when I lose someone I loved. I don't just live for the good stuff anymore. I live for all of it because all of it is part of my story. The only person who can see that story through to the end is me. And it's not always gonna be sunshine and rainbows, but all those little moments, they add up to be a beautiful life.